It is 12 noon. Welcome in. It's Football Friday. Mike Rodak from Bama 247. He will be one of our weekly guests on Friday as we talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. We are 8 days away from them taking on the Florida State Seminoles. A lot of discussion this morning about the 9-game SEC conference schedule that was made official yesterday afternoon by Commissioner Greg Sankey as the presidents voted to move forward. I was told that a schedule could be potentially presented relatively quickly. Ross Dellinger, I believe, from Yahoo Sports, he reported that it might not come until December, so we'll wait and see. The SEC obviously has schedule models, and they've probably looked at a many of schedule models, and we'll see when that comes to fruition. Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline, talk a little Alabama football, is Mike Rodak from Bama 247. Mike, I hope the summer has been well for you.
It's been going well, and yeah, just to hit off your last point, Greg Sankey was on Paul's show yesterday, and he specifically said December is when they're planning on doing their TV show to reveal the schedule, because every league needs to have a TV show now to do a schedule reveal, so that's their plan.
All right, but let's start there with the schedule before we get to the nuts and bolts of what's going on with the Alabama roster and scrimmages and so forth. Your thoughts on the 9-game SEC schedule, and I had posted this on Twitter yesterday because based on the data from 2 years ago, it would have had Alabama playing Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee as the 3 permanent opponents. What do you think about those 3, and where do you think ultimately it will end up for Alabama with those 3 permanent opponents?
Yeah, I mean, coming from an NFL background personally, I'm always in favor of playing more good games. I think the whole idea of Alabama playing Utah State or Middle Tennessee or whoever was always very foreign to me. I understand the history of it in college football, but I think people just want to watch a good game. And if 9 games means eliminating one of those games, then good. Now, I'm not even sure that will be the case. If you saw Greg Burns' statement last night, he's going to reevaluate Alabama's non-conference scheduling, and maybe it's possible they cancel some of those, higher non-conference games that they have. But yeah, I think it's a positive. I don't know if it's going to be a positive for every team every season. I think there's obviously teams that are going to kind of be worse off because of it. But I think for fans, it's a good thing. As far as the permanent opponents, I mean, I would expect LSU to be the third one. I think a lot of people, obviously the debate there is between LSU and Mississippi State. And yes, Auburn is a rivalry game for Alabama. It's gone back and forth over the years. But when the SEC looks at the data, and I think I saw it today, there's analytics companies doing it for them. And, one of the metrics might be wins in the past 5 years, wins in the past 10 years, et cetera. Auburn's not very high on that list. And it's quite frankly getting worse for Auburn. So that's actually a game that they kind of catch a break. Alabama catches a break statistically by playing Auburn, as opposed to a higher ranked team in the SEC, a Texas or Oklahoma or somebody. So you kind of have to factor that in. You also have to factor in that Tennessee wasn't very good for a good number of years there. Butch Davis, Jeremy Pruitt, they've gotten better under Josh Heupel. I don't know if they're going to be all that good this year. So Tennessee is still in the middle of the pack in terms of wins over the last 10 years. So I don't think it's outrageous to have LSU. I don't think it's unfair. I mean, you look at Auburn having to play Georgia and Alabama by default every year. That's tough. And there's other schools like A&M, having to play Texas every year. I'd have to think who else would be on their list. I guess Arkansas maybe over there would be, there's just schools that have tougher schedules. And I don't think it's outrageous for Alabama to have to play LSU every year. I think fans like the idea of watching Alabama LSU every year. I know some people might want Mississippi State, but I ultimately think LSU is where it lands.
Mike Rodak, Bama 247, joining us on 3-man front on the Higginbotham Hotline. Mike, we heard Coach DeBoer say, hey, we're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep practicing, battling it out. As far as uncertainties for you, from your vantage point, what position groups, individual players are still jockeying for position?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of starting jobs, there's not very much. I mean, there's the guard situation with Jaden Roberts, and that was a competition even before his concussion. And I think all signs right now point to Geno Vandermark and Cam Dewberry being the starters at guard. And whenever Jaden Roberts gets back from his concussion, he probably rotates into that and just kind of see where that goes. But There's really not like a starting job on this Alabama team right now that you're wondering about. Now, I would wonder about the running back distribution, without Jam Miller. I think that feels to be a pretty decent question mark. Just listening to Ryan Grubb, listening to Kalen DeBoer this week, the tone of their answers wasn't the greatest in terms of how they feel about what's behind them right now. And I think, yes, Daniel Hill, big back, bruising back. Richard Young showed some flash last year at a touchdown against Missouri. They brought in Jerry Washington out of the portal from Louisiana, but I think they really trust what Jam Miller can do. And he had a good fall camp before he got hurt. So that's a question mark. And, we'll have to see how they distribute it. We'll have to see what the weather is in Florida State. I mean, that could be a factor if it does rain, and kind of by default, Florida in August, you're probably looking at least the possibility of a pop-up storm. But if there is organized rain, you're trying to run the ball a lot, and we'll have to see how they do that. So not a whole lot of questions. And when the depth chart comes out next week, I don't know what day it will come out. I don't think there will be too many surprises, but those are just a couple of positions that there may be some level of uncertainty left at this point.
In regards to the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of optimism about how a lot of the young guys from last year got the experience. Now it's going to be that experience. It's going to lead to that group to be potentially one of the best in the Southeastern Conference. Do you share that opinion in regards to that side of the ball?
I mean, yeah, it's a veteran group, and you're talking about 4th, 5th, 6th-year guys, and there's a lot of them. And I know people, might get excited about Keon Keeley and kind of the progress he made in the spring, or Dijon Lee coming in as a freshman and probably getting on the field right away in some capacity, or some of the other younger guys they have. But I think this defense is really going to lean on the veteran players. Obviously, Deontay Lawson, Keon Sabb, Damani Jackson's a senior. Tim Keenan's a 5th-year guy. LT Overton's a senior. James Smith is a junior. Quay Russo is a 3rd-year guy. There's a lot of veterans. And then you add in Jamarian Latham, I think is going to see more time than people think. A 6th-year guy. Deshaun Jones is probably your starting Husky, a 5th-year guy. So very experienced group. I think it's one that Kane trusts. But with every single guy, you can kind of ask a question. I don't think there's a first-round pick on this defense right now in terms of next year. There's obviously not an all-SEC, first-team all-SEC player on this defense. So with each of those guys, you can say, what's the next step for Damani Jackson? What does Deontay Lawson look like coming back from injury? What does Sabb look like coming back from injury? Can LT Overton get more sacks? Can Tim Keenan get more pressure? Can James Smith put it all together? Can Russo put it all together? So if they answer a lot of those questions, I think this defense could be great. But there are questions with each guy kind of along the way, and let's have to see how that works out.
Mike, speaking of questions, Ryan Grubb, we know what he can do. We saw what he did at Washington, highly thought of. What are the questions that you have for Alabama's offense from a schematic standpoint as we enter week 1?
Yeah, I still want to see where that run-pass balance falls. I think that's, you look at Grubb and DeBoer's history, they're a very pass-heavy offense statistically. They also had the guys to do it at Washington. You're bringing in a less experienced quarterback with 0 career starts. And Ty, are you able to throw the ball 35, 40 times a game with Ty right away? I think is one question. And I think they want to run the ball more than people think. That's been a theme for Ryan Grubb. You just mentioned it again this week. He said the running game is going to determine how far we go this season. So it's not just the running backs. And I think there's questions about the running backs, as I mentioned before, but it's also the tight end room. I think how well does that tight end room block in the running game is a storyline when you lose 2 very good blockers in C.J. Dupree and Robbie Utes to the draft, and you don't really know what that's going to look like. Josh Cuevas is one of those guys, and who's the other? The offensive line, like I said, at guard, you're trying to figure out, what does that look like? So the running game and how much they run and how effectively they can run, I think is a bigger storyline than people think. But obviously everybody wants to see the passing game take a huge step and be more effective and be more just prolific in general than what it was last year with Jalen.
Mike Rodak from Batman 247 joins us here on Three Man Front as we kind of take a preview at this Alabama football team as they get ready to take on Florida State. Many times when you look at a team's schedule, you might identify a couple of games, maybe mid-season, and say, you know what, that is a trap game, or that's the definition of a trap game. With Alabama going to Florida State and so many questions, especially at the quarterback position for Alabama breaking in a new one, and Florida State having a new offense and defensive coordinator, would you consider this game against Florida State a trap game?
Trap game, no, but interesting game, yes. I think for me, like I'll define trap game as something coming off a bigger game. And in this case, it's your first game, so I think the focus has been on this game, which is a positive for Alabama. Obviously, Vandy last year was your trap game coming off of the Georgia game. You have Vandy again coming off the Georgia game this year. If that's a trap game, like something's wrong. Like if players don't get the message going to the Vandy game this year, that would be an issue. To me, it's the game after the Vandy game, which is going to Missouri, sleepy little Columbia, Missouri, 11 a.m. kickoff. That game would scare me a little bit in October, second weekend in October. But Florida State also poses problems because you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what Gus Malzahn's offense looks like at Florida State. You don't know what Tommy Castellanos looks like with the Florida State players around him. You do have tape of him with Gus at UCF. You don't know what the defense looks like. So there's the newness factor there, and I think there's enough continuity with Alabama that Florida State probably is a better idea of what Alabama could do. Granted, the change in quarterback, but the crowd's going to be into it. We'll have to see what the weather's like. It's not an easy game by any means, and I think that's sort of reflected in the spread, which is still around 13. That's not even. I might put it closer to 10 personally. It's a game that Alabama should win, but it's not an automatic game by any means.
Wow, can you imagine if not only they don't cover, but they lose? what your website and what this radio show is going to experience on that Monday afterwards on Labor Day? That would be something else.
I think we'll hit our August numbers.
Well, we might hit the rest of the year numbers there, Mike, depending on what happens.
No, it was a big October for us last year. I put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, your Paramount bosses and our bosses in New York at Cumulus, they might be, might be a little something extra in the old stocking if that happens.
But I'll say this too. I was telling Conrad before it came on. It also does feel like the Wisconsin game last year, where you went into it, you're like, man, this crowd might be tough. This might be a tough game, and then Van Dyke in that case goes down quickly, and that game was over before it really started. So it could be like that too. I mean, it's a possibility, but personally, I think it's probably going to be an actual game that stretches into the second half.
Mike, did you remember that Emmanuel Henderson was playing at Kansas now?
I did, because their special teams coach actually mentioned him. Alabama's special teams coach mentioned him in a video interview and said that he was the best gunner in the SEC last year on punt coverage.
All right, so be honest. Until you heard that, did you remember that he played at Kansas?
Vaguely,
Mike,
vaguely.
come on, Mike.
I like to take pride in being a nerd.
You can't bowl
about
two
some
bowlers.
of the portal stuff, in some of the depth chart stuff, and some of the roster stuff. Like that's my wheelhouse.
Well, major kudos. Then.
So I will say, I knew that.
Well, we did not remember.
No, we didn't. I came across his name and I was like, wait a second.
And how about
He's at
this,
Kansas?
Mike? In the process, I'm looking at the depth charts, and I just scroll down to the defensive side, and there's a kid that Pat coached in Little League that transferred from Texas, starting at defensive end.
Yeah, Justice Finkley. Yeah, isn't that something?
I've heard that name.
Yeah, he's at Kansas. He played at Hewitt-Trussville, and he went to Texas for 2 years, and now he's at Kansas.
That sums up the transfer portal.
Yeah,
that'll make you feel young.
Oh, tell me about it. Big time. All right, Mike, enjoy your final weekend. You got a honey-do list this weekend? What are you doing? Painting the house? Doing yard work? What are you doing?
I just finished mowing the lawn, and I came inside to take this call. I'm going to go back outside and start blowing.
What kind of grass you got?
Zoysia.
I do
good.
too.
I'm also a grass nerd. So
watch that thatch, though. I'm sure you do, but watch that thatch.
Yeah, it's relatively new, so it hasn't developed too much thatch yet, but I'll keep an eye on it.
Hey, hit it with a little bit of that 10-10-10. Georgia loves it.
Okay.
See? You grass nerds.
Yeah, I'm a grass nerd too.
All right, Mike, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
You got it, guys.
All right, thanks. That's Mike Rodak. Joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Our friends at Prize Picks. Yes, Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. You can join millions of users. Sign up today. Prize Picks is really simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can win cash, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. It's really simple. You're going to download the Prize Picks app today. Use code WJOX to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code WJOX. $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even have to win. How about this? We're going to go college ranks, Conrad. College foosball. Coming up tomorrow. Got a couple of player projections.
Oh, I thought you were talking about there's a big foosball tournament tonight.
I don't know if they offer. I don't think Prize Picks offers foosball. Let's go Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson. They're in Dublin. All right. 200.5 passing yards. More or less than 200.5?
I've been doing my research for Bet It or Forget It. He threw for 240 last year against Iowa State, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So we're going more for Avery Johnson because he did it last year. He's going to do it again tomorrow.
All right. We're going to see if you know. We'll go more there. E.J. Warner, Kurt's son. I saw him when he played UAB. He was a quarterback at Temple. He is now at Fresno. E.J. Warner, 184.5 passing yards tomorrow. More or less?
I would go more for him as well. I don't think Kansas defensively is great. So, yeah, we'll go more for Kurt Warner Jr.
All right. If those guys go more on their player projections, me and Conrad are a winner. You can be a winner as well. Prize Picks, run your game. We are 13 minutes away from the first installment of the college football season of Bet It or Forget It. The reigning champion, she is primping right now, about to go and put on her tiara, her championship tiara. We got to keep Molly from winning. Bet It or Forget It at 12:30. We continue the Friday edition of Three Man Front.